The 9th of April, Rabbi Levitt. I don't know, what are we doing today? Ten Commandments or something else?
Yeah, I don't have anything more on the Ten Commandments prepared, so I thought we would do something about the Haggadah,
Oh, that'd be good.
but I don't really have anything prepared per se, but I have the Haggadah of Rabbi Daniel Gladstein. Here's very interesting Haggadah.
I have a question,
Yeah,
but if you want to entertain it, if not, it's fine. Um,
yeah, no, good. Let's hear.
so the Haggadah mentions Lavan,
Right,
and Lavan is a difficult to understand episode because in all other episodes that I can think of, I can identify the something that the Jewish people did wrong that brought about trouble. But in the case of Lavan, it doesn't seem that Yaakov Avinu did anything wrong. He listened to his mother.
right.
He went to Lavan. Now, Lavan was a Rasha, but that's not Yaakov's fault. Um,
Okay.
Rivka knew very well the situation. It's her brother. So, for whatever reason, she said go. I don't know that we can say that that is a something doing something wrong. What what is the reason that that Yaakov suffered so much under Lavan?
Why did Yaakov suffer so much under Lavan? Mhm. I mean, I remember hearing from Rav Brevda Zatzal that Yaakov Avinu teaches teaches Klal Yisrael how to survive in the Golos, and this is something that right. A lot of things happened to the Abos that were not so pleasant, that were not so easy, and you can ask this question that you've asked about other instances in the life of the Avos as well. Why was Sarah taken captive? Why did Avram Avinu have to suffer a famine? Why did there's all sorts of things like this that we could ask as well, even though we don't find anywhere in Chazal that that they were being punished for any avera that they did. So so accordingly, right? You hear the it's not what you're asking really is a question. It's a very fair question, but there's a lot of other instances as well that you could ask the question about the life of the avos and the imahos.
But I think in other cases we can identify reasons. For example, Sarah.
What did Sarah do in order to be abducted? What did she do wrong?
Um, he shouldn't have put her in a box. He shouldn't have tried to smuggle her in. And maybe
Why should he? Okay, so let's not argue about this. Let's just deal with your question then. If you want, I don't want to argue about that. I don't think that's a. I think it's definitely so. It's definitely so that things happen to the avos that were not that they didn't deserve. I have that as a tradition from my rebbeim. Okay, so I don't want to argue about that. So all I'm saying is that this you've pointed out one instance which I've heard uh, as well uh, also applies to that general rule. Okay.
Well, wait a second now. If we're gonna say that things happen to that it's a fact, it's a basic fact that things happen to the Avos that they didn't deserve.
Yeah.
So that's getting even more close to my basic question.
Exactly.
Is what do we learn from these things? That I mean, what do we learn about ourselves? It kind of makes life a bad thing. That you know, I can do everything right, and bad things happen to me. That's
Well,
right. It's not nice.
well. First of all, let's put down the principle over here. Um, we can't always compare ourselves to the avos, right? Things happen to the avos because we have a principle of Maisa avos simin labonim. We have
Right,
a principle that the things that happen to the avos are going to happen to the children.
right,
Why is that? Because of the why is that? Why is it that things that happen to the avos happen to the children? So I would suggest it's really the other way around. It's because of the facts that Hashem ordered the world in the way that He did that things happen to the banim that happened to us. That's why that's why Hashem had the things happen to the avos in that fashion. Because, like I said before, what Rebbe told us was that Yaakov Avinu had the tsaros from Lavan essentially for the because not because he deserved to have tsaros, but because him dealing with those tsaros and we study how he dealt with the situation of Lavan. We study how it was that he dealt with Esav when Esav came to kill him. We and Chazal explained to us that this is the way that Yaakov Avinu handled those situations. He was our teacher. He was our father that teaches us how it is that we have to do with those situations as well. So if you ask why did this happen to Yaakov Avinu, why did this happen to other things as well with the Avos and the Imahos? That's the way Hashem made the world. That they're the ones that teach us and guide us. These are the things that we see in the Torah that teach us how to live. And if you'll say, well, but still, so he didn't deserve that it should happen to him. So, but
I hear what you're saying. He's our teacher. He's got a role to play, being one of the Avos. He's got a role to play, and we can learn from him, not because he did something wrong, and we say, okay, I see he did something wrong, and therefore I have to make sure I don't do that thing wrong, but rather that he did something right, and we learn from him that that's how to deal with certain problems. But it's a mixture because in many cases we can identify reasons. Like for example, the rape of Dinah. We can track that to Yaakov being happy when he withheld her from Esav. That's also Yaakov. But maybe what I'm hearing from you is that, well, in some parts of his life, it's one principle, in some parts of his life, another principle.
Yeah, we don't. In other words, we don't find anywhere that Chazal explain why Yaakov had to suffer at the hands of Lavan for 21 years. That we don't find that he did something wrong.
Right.
I mean, actually, I'm just thinking right now. I think, yeah, that's the that's the general answer. When it comes to the avos, the things that happened to them, we don't have to, and we know that they didn't have easy lives. If we examine their lives, much of their lives were filled with difficulty and strife and many challenges, and so we don't find in Chazal that every time that something happens to one of the avos, that Chazal say, oh yeah, that's because of this, that's because of that, that's because he did this, that's because he did that. Maybe there are some times where Chazal do have a a reservation with how they handled something, or what they did in a certain situation, which brought something about. Uh, Nothing comes to mind right now, um, as far as that goes. Um, we could even ask, why did Klal Yisrael have to suffer for 210 years in Mitzrayim? What did they do wrong?
Because of
That's really the
Abraham
question of
saying,
the hour,
how
I
will I
think.
know?
What?
Because Abraham said, how will I know?
Yeah, okay. That's true. That's what the Chazal say. Yeah.
There was a certain
Um,
lack of Amunah that had to be rooted out of the Jewish people.
okay. Okay. It's
But that
true.
fits in with what you're saying also, that we learn from their tribulations how to have more Amunah. We learn from Yaakov's tribulations how to deal with wickedness. So I guess that does make sense to me.
Yeah. Why did Yaakov have to be put in the situation that he has to go in and steal the brachas, and then Esav gets angry, and then he comes and wants to kill him? What did Yaakov do wrong? Why couldn't it be that Hashem could set up the situation that Yitzchak just gives the brachas to Yaakov, and these are but the but the fact that it happened in the way that it did, one of the things that we learn out from is how it was that when Esau did come to destroy him, how did Yaakov deal with the situation? The three things that he did: he engaged in tefillah, he engaged in bribery, he engaged in milchama. And how did he engage in milchama? Figure out how to split his camp so that if one camp would be attacked, the other camp would run away.
Right.
Different things that we learn from how he did. So that's the whole idea of Torah. Torah is everything that's contained in Torah. Rabbi Chanan Wasserman would say that the word Torah itself means to teach.
Right.
And much of what's in the Torah is well, in regard to people, in stories with people, it's with the avos. And then after that, okay, they have the Dordea, Moshe Rabbeinu, and Klal Yisrael at the time of Yitzias Mitzrayim, and in the Shibud Mitzrayim, and 40 years in the Midbar. So yeah, okay. So that's the basic rule.
Okay, well, that's helpful.
Yeah. Okay, so um, about the Haggadah, he I was looking for some this relating of the Eser Makos and Magid. I see that he doesn't really go into that so much. Not too much, doesn't look like it. What am I looking for over here? Um, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Uh, oh yeah, because this would actually be very appropriate for us in light of what we've been talking about, that we have the three tens. And he mentions over here, Rabbi Gladstein in the Haggadah, he has a section over here, the Makos, the 10 steps that recreate the world. Maybe we'll see something over here about yeah. Oh, this is what he's got over here. Okay. So I'll just read what he says over here. I think it'll be instructive, and it's pretty lucid and understandable. It's not really like what we were learning before. So he brings that. He first starts out with Sefer Sheni, the second Sefer, and then the Netziv quotes the Bahag, who assigns topically appropriate titles for each of the Hamisha Chumshei Torah. The Bahag refers to the Chumashim as follows: Sefer Bereshis, Vayikra is Sefer Kohanim, Bamidbar is Chumash HaPikudim, Devorim is Mishnah Torah. Sefer Shmos is simply referred to as Sefer Sheni, Book 2. There's a precedent for this designation in Masechah Sota, which refers to Sefer Shmos as Sefer Sheni. But Vayikra is not called Book 3, but Midbar is not called Book 4. So why does he call Shmos Book 2? Why was Chumash Shmos singled out and given the title that doesn't reflect the content in it, but its chronological position? So then he continues, the mitzvah of Rosh Chodesh, the very first mitzvah that Klal Yisrael received on a national level was HaChodesh Hazeh Lechem Rosh Chodoshim. This month of Nisan should be for you the beginning of the months. You'll count the years according to the beginning of from Rosh Chodesh Nisan. And Rashi, in fact, in the first pasuk in Bereshit, suggests that the Torah could have been uh, given just from the beginning of HaKodesh Hazeh Lachem, because that's the where we start with the mitzvahs. And Rav David Cohen expresses incredulity. He's in wonderment at the placement of this mitzvah. Why is HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem specifically placed between the 9th and 10th Makos in the plagues? In the Torah, when we read HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem, Rosh Chadoshim, if you think about it for a second, it doesn't make any sense. Why is that over there where it is between the 9th and the 10th Makkah? Chodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodoshim, Rosh Chodesh, Nisan, that took place months before. Wow, I never had this question. This is quite a question. Okay, so now listen to this. He's going to talk about the Asera Maimaros and how do they correspond to oh, you know what? I think they have a printing error over here. The headline of this paragraph is the 10 utterances that correspond to 10 utterances. Okay, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm not sure exactly we'll see what he says. The Torah begins with the Ma'aseh Bereshis, the creation of the world. The Medrash teaches that the Egyptians enslaved Klal Yisrael, for whom the entire world had been created with Asara Maimaros. And as a payback, Hashem used 10 utterances to bring the Makos upon the Mitzrim. Wow. Oh boy. Oh, this is quite amazing. What does that mean that Hashem used 10 utterances to bring the Makos upon the Mitzrim? Where do we find the 10 Makos? Where do we find any utterances with the 10 Makos? We just say 10 Makos. In our quest to understand this Medrash, it behooves us to identify the 10 utterances of creation and to understand the parallel between them and the 10 statements that brought the plagues upon the Egyptians. He doesn't say 10 commandments, he says 10 statements. Oh, no, over there, I'm sorry. Over there, he's referring to statements that brought the plagues upon the Egyptians. This is interesting because I was my wife was telling me about you gotta use this ChatGPT. It's so good. It's amazing how this robot has so much chachma. So I didn't really believe it, but anyway, I started asking him a certain question, and he told me this thing, what they're saying right now, I think. And I said, where does it say this? Who says this? And he said, oh, it says that over here, over there, over there. And I looked up the place. It says, it doesn't say this, what you say over here. And he says, oh, you're quite right. I admit that, it's not correct. What, the source is what I was saying. And, if you want to continue, I'd be happy to continue. And I says, I'm not interested in continuing if you're just going to make things up and tell me things that doesn't say anywhere what you're saying. So, and here I'm looking over here, and he's saying this is what the ChatGPT was saying to me, that the 10 Makos were really created by 10 statements as well of Hashem. So let's see. I'm interested to see where Rabbi Gladstein brings the sources over here. That's what he's saying. Okay, so Mishnah teaches that while Hashem could just have readily created the entire universe with one single utterance, right? Why do they have to be Asara Maimoros? There could have just been one mimer. Hashem could have just said, let there be a world. Poof, there's a world. Hashem doesn't need to do 10 utterances, Asara Maimoros. So why do we have Asara Maimoros? Hashem chose to do Asara Maimoros in order to provide greater reward to tzaddikim that uphold the world, and to exact big time punishment to evildoers whose sinful behavior destroys the world. Wow. The Gemara asks if there seem to be only 9 utterances listed in the Torah throughout the process of creation. Only 9 times in the account of creation does the word Vayomer appear. That'll be the Asara Maimoros from the word Vayomer. But there's only 9 of them. The Gemara asks the question. The Gemara answers that the word Bereshis perforce must also be counted as a mimer, even though it doesn't say Vayomer, let there be Bereshis. That will also be a mimer, through which that'll round out the Asara Maimoros. Okay, now in the Haggadah we have the Eser Makos that we've been talking about. And the Malbim wonders why, in fact, the Torah does not use the word Vayomer for the first utterance as well. Why instead did Hashem use Bereshis for the first utterance? The Malbim explains that Vayomer can be employed only when something is being addressed and spoken to. However, the first act of creation was ex nihilo, yesh mi'ayin, something from nothing. Therefore, the use of Vayomer is not appropriate. And the word Bereshis is employed. That's a fascinating answer. Amira means that you're talking to somebody. Still, even if we include the word Bereshis, we don't find 10 utterances of creation. So he lists all the 10 utterances over here that we have, the 10 Vayomers. And with the first one being Bereshis bara Elokim, like the Gemara says. Medrash Rabbah cites 2 opinions as to the identity of the 10th utterance Hashem spoke in the process of creation. Why? Why is that necessary? It says, Vayomer, oh, I see. 1 second. 1 second over here. Oh, so the 10th mimer is also difficult. Where's the Vayomer? Okay, so he's got a question about that. One opinion is that the words Baruch Elokim Merachefes Alamayim, the divine presence hovered over the water, is an utterance. The second view is that it says Vayomer Elokim Lo Tov V'Yosa Adam Levado. It's not good that man be alone. Wow. I'll have to tell my wife about that one. That's the 10th utterance, the creation of the world. In other words, the creation of the world is the beginning of the creation of the first couple, Adam and Chava. Okay. I'm waiting for him to get to the the connection with the Makos. So he's going to get there. Let me just skip this what he said about the Asar Maimaros over here. And then he says, now that we have identified the Asar Maimaros, let's learn their connection to the Eser Makos. That's what we'd like to know. Okay, so the Sefer Tzror Amor teaches that Paro denied Hashem as the controlling force of the universe. Right? Hashem is, he said, Mi Hashem. Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron Cohen came to tell him, send, they said in the name of Hashem, the God of the Jews, send the Jewish people out of Mitzrayim. And Paro said, Me Hashem. Who is this Hashem that I have to listen to him and send the Klal Yisrael out of Mitzrayim? I don't know who Hashem is. I don't recognize his existence, and I'm not going to send them out. So the sending out of Klal Yisrael was conditioned upon the Paro's lack of recognition of who's the one who's telling him to send him out. He doesn't know who is this that Hashem who's telling me to send them out. If I don't know who he is, I don't recognize him. Why do I have to listen? And it's much more than that. When he says he doesn't recognize Hashem, it means that he doesn't recognize that there's, when we say Hashem, we mean Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. We mean the one who is the source of existence. We mean the one who is the controller, really, of Shemayim Va'aretz, the creator and the continued supervisor and controller of what happens in Shemayim Va'aretz. So he didn't believe that. So therefore, Hashem sent the Makos to prove to Paro and Mitzrayim that yes, there is a Hashem, and that he not only created everything that there is, but that he continues to create and control everything that there is. And that's what the Makos are about. So Paro denied that there was such a thing as Brias Shemayim Va'aretz that occurred with Asara Maimaros that Hashem said, and that they're still under his control. So therefore, Paro was punished with Eser Makos. So since he denied the existence of Hashem, so he was punished with Makos that punished the Shemayim Va'aretz, meaning the water, the earth, the sky, the entirety of creation. The Makos affected the entirety of creation. And so, therefore, it was as if Hashem was recreating the world, just so Paro could personally see the error of his ways. Through the Makos, Hashem demonstrated his total control over everything in the universe. And at some point, in many cases, in the last moment of their lives, the Egyptians came to the recognition that Hashem, in fact, is Hashem, and he is, in fact, who he is, and he did create the world, and he is continuing to control it as well. So therefore, we're saying that
you finished?
Oh.
my phone is here. We need you to
Okay,
write down.
that'll be it for today. It's 33. Okay, so it looks like this is right up your alley over here.
Sorry, I was muted. I said, very good. I really got a lot out of this. I wouldn't mind proceeding with it.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, this is nice. I like this.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
All right. Have a great
Very good.
day. Talk to you
Okay, all the
tomorrow.
best, Lou. We're on for tomorrow?
Miss Hashem, unless you have a problem.
Okay. We'll so far I don't see any problem.
Okay. All right.
Very
Well, we'll
good.
play it by ear, but I'm planning on
Okay.
tomorrow.
Okay, I'm happy you're finding this fruitful.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Take care.
Okay.